Now I'm having a conversation about that idea, and I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting? We looked at the same thing, but I saw it this different way. I love it when a group of people all tell a story about the same thing, and when they show each other their picture, everybody's fascinated, like, wow, we are thinking about the same problem, but you saw it this way, and I saw it this way, and I don't necessarily agree with your point of view, but I understand it now, and I respect it, and you can see that all points of view are equally valid to that person, and it's a great exercise. You think it's about drawing, but it's really about seeing the other person's thinking and respecting the other person's point of view. So
can you guide our audience through a 90-second audio exercise to draw a simple customer change story right now without any visuals?
Imagine somebody standing on a mountain or a cliff on the left side, and it's just a person, and there's another cliff on the right side that has everything that they want. It's their goals, it's money, it's victory, it's love, it's something they want, or a whole bunch of things that they want. But in the middle, there is a big gap, and maybe on the bottom of that gap is water full of sharks and alligators if they fall in, right? So now what we want to do is figure out how are we going to get from the left part to the right part.
And Lisa, you say rough sketches can collapse year-long decision cycles into a single 90-minute session. So what actually happens in the room, step by step, that PowerPoint fails to unlock?
If I could be showing you a PowerPoint, but then if I go and say, well, let me show you what I mean. What I mean by that is we have a thing over here and we're trying to get it to go over there. We have a truck that has logistics and it needs to go, we're sending things from this place to this place and it has to go here, but we're having a problem with, we need to maybe send an email at this part. When you do something like this, people go, oh yeah, but then we could also send them a free gift. Like we could send them a gift while they're waiting for their delivery to come. People are able to participate and they see something coming to life in real time. It is just a more dynamic and inclusive way to get everyone's involved instead of now to compare that to our logistics are experiencing challenge.
So folks, you have tuned into TGV and hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series, the world's only quadrilingual podcast at this moment of recording, and we are trying to embark into multiple languages as we speak, and here we embark on transformative conversations for a better future, and we want to simplify and amplify your journey to success. I'm your host Navin Samala, dedicated to making the world a better place by bringing you wisdom through valuable discussions with experts designed to simplify and amplify your success. And thank you so much for tuning in. So folks, welcome back to the Guiding Voice podcast series, and this is one more episode, and today we are joined by Lisa Rothstein, who is a New Yorker cartoonist, Fortune 500 strategist, and author of Drawing Out Your Genius, a field guide to using simple sketches to sell ideas, drive buy-in, and lead change. She spent over a decade in Paris creating ad campaigns that ran in 17 countries. And now she helps leaders replace slide-driven confusion with fast, human-centered decisions, often in 90 minutes. And Lisa, hearty welcome to TGV, the Guiding Voice podcast series. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be here.
Pleasure to have you. And first things first, why should somebody tune into our podcast episode today and spend their valuable time with us?
Well, we're going to be talking about how anybody can take a marker and shortcut to understanding and consensus and team collaboration that just works so much faster than just speaking or writing alone.
Superb. So, folks, today we are going to dive into an interesting conversation on the topic at hand. The worse it looks, the better it works. Lisa Rothstein on sketching your way to 90-minute decisions. But before we get started, here is an exciting twist as always. Let us tickle our guest's brain first. So, Lisa, I'm going to kick off the first rapid fire round, which is a rapid fire round of random words. I'll mention a few words and you need to respond without thinking much, as crisply as possible. And if you're ready, let's get the ball rolling.
Okay, here we go.
My first word is curiosity.
I think of children. I think of how easy they and how they never stop asking questions.
Invention.
Benjamin Franklin. And
Future.
yeah, future, the future. AI, I have to say.
Okay. Universe.
Universe. It's everything that's all around you.
Love it. And then leadership.
Leadership is doing things without waiting for somebody else to tell you what to do.
Super. Success.
Success is getting to do what you want with the people you want, when you want, where you want.
Wow, wow. Amazing. Next word is drawing.
Drawing is just making a mark on a surface, and that's it. That's all it is.
Okay. What do you want to talk about? Aliens.
Aliens. I think of the cute little cartoon ones with the one eye in the middle and a little antenna on top.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Life.
Life is a work of art.
Okay. Super. Here comes the last word. Role model.
Role model. I have many, but my absolute hero of all time is Charles Schultz, the creator of Peanuts. Yeah.
Amazing. I loved all your responses and thank you so much for participating in the rapid fire round number 1 so sportively. And thank you once again for being part of our journey in shaping the careers and lives of millions across the globe. And let's get into the mainstream conversation.
Yeah.
So, since my podcast name is The Guiding Voice, talk to us about who is your guiding voice?
That's a great question. I have a few people that I pay a lot of attention to and I follow. One of my favorite books, though, that I turn to all the time is called The War of Art by a man named Stephen Pressfield. The title is a play on the art of war, but it's The War of Art, and it's really all about. It's not only about art; it's about any kind of creative endeavor and the resistance that comes with it, and how to overcome that resistance. And every page, I have highlighted it so many times that the whole book is yellow now. I give it as a gift to everybody, and it's really a wonderful read, easy read for anyone. And it's literally like something I pick up almost every day. So I would have to call that my guiding voice.
Now, talk to us about your success mantra, as in top 3 things that have contributed to your success so far.
Well, one of them is, everyone says you should have a plan. I did not have a plan. All my life, even when I was a child, I really wanted to just not know what was going to happen to me. So one of these keys to my success is being able to adapt and to seize opportunity when it comes, but not necessarily have a rigid view of what I want. Another is not giving up on a dream forever. I gave up for a while, but you can always pick it up later. So basically, being able to uh, 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 recharge, reboot your dream later in life. And the third one is just enthusiasm. I'm enthusiastic about everything. I can get excited about anything. It helped me a lot in advertising when I had to write commercials for toilet bowl cleaner or computers or contact lenses. There's always something exciting about even the simplest or most boring products or situations if you think about it, you know.
Amazing. And Lisa, you say rough sketches can collapse year-long decision cycles into a single 90-minute session. So, what actually happens in the room, step by step, that PowerPoint fails to unlock?
Well, PowerPoint is a one-way conversation. It's necessary. I'm not saying you should draw pictures instead of PowerPoint. Uh, but sometimes you need both. And when you have a PowerPoint, you basically create something. Usually people don't make their slides that great, and so they're already there's too many words, and everybody's sitting there passively consuming this or not consuming it. They're thinking about something else, or they have other tabs open on their computer. If they're watching on Zoom, they're definitely not paying attention to your slides. I can tell you that right now. And so even if they listen, it's something they forget also later because they had no input, they had no agency in the meeting. Whereas if you can whiteboard something, you have it's it what if I could be showing you a PowerPoint, but then if I go and say, well, here's let me show you what I mean. What I mean by that is we have a thing over here and we're trying to get it to go over there. We have a truck that has logistics and it needs to go. It needs to go. We're sending things from this place to this place, and it has to go here. But we're having a problem with we need to maybe send an email at this part. When you do something like this, people go, oh yeah, but then we could also send them a free gift. Like we could send them a gift while they're waiting for their delivery to come. People are able to participate and they see something coming to life in real time. It's it is just a more dynamic and inclusive way to get everyone's involved instead of now to compare that to our logistics are experiencing challenges and it's like, oh, it's boring and it just people are like, I have nothing to say because it's all finished. When something is white on white space, then people can actually have some agency and have some input. And the meeting could not be an email, you know. So that's that's why it gets
Got
in
it.
it.
And yeah, no, I love the rough sketch that you have created. I think that is interactive and, as you said, the inclusive as well.
Mm.
And that brings me to my next question. Like, you teach that visible imperfection is today's number one proof of humanity. So how do these imperfect lines and messy marks speed up clarity and buy-in in an AI polished world? Maybe you
Yeah.
can share a client example if possible. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. I'm working with some clients right now. I have nothing against AI. I think AI is a magical thing. I love it. I use it all the time. But there's a place for it and a place for it not to be. And the problem with AI is that it is so good, it is so finished and so perfect. It cuts out the middle section where you're actually supposed to be thinking and making decisions, and it presents you with this finished product that you haven't really questioned up until now, like what you really wanted to be doing. So I worked recently with I don't really want to say the name of the company, but I worked recently with a bank or sort of a credit union, and they needed to tell a story to their internal customers about not to their internal customers, to their staff, about what the mission and vision and values of the company were. And they showed me what they had created, and it was made by AI, and it was extremely polished, but it had no emotional content. It was very boring and very confusing in its own way because it had all the details. Every detail that everybody had prompted was in this picture or this map or chart or whatever it was, and you did not know you couldn't really extract any meaning from it because everybody had so much input, and the AI was cooperative and gave them exactly what they asked for, which was too much information, very complex, but perfect and finished and done. And I'm like, no wonder nobody understands this. So we had to go back to things that looked like this to say, okay, what are we really trying to say here? Just to be able to take out some of the detail that they had put in here that was not necessary. So it takes what AI does is it's a servant, and it's a servant that does exactly what you tell it to. And if you input too much information or you have too many people inputting information, then you end up with a very accurate depiction of all of that confusion. You know, so you have to be willing to do the confusing things on paper first, and then you can mess around with them and then go, okay, this is what we're really talking about. Is this thing right here? Now you can start to prompt the AI. Now we have a clear picture that we've created together in our minds. Now let's let the AI make that beautiful. I'm not going to show. I'm not going to show necessarily this drawing in a presentation to a big important client. I could take this and say, now let's have AI make it professional looking and beautiful. But at least we understand what we're saying. I think AI makes you skip the understanding part. You know.
Right. Got it. Got it. Also, you ran international ad campaigns in Paris and across 18 countries. So, how did sketching cut through language and cultural barriers? And how does that translate to global teams today?
Yeah, well, that was a really interesting thing because what happened was I was in New York City in a big ad agency. It was then called Lintas, and they sent me to Paris because one of our clients was IBM, and Paris was our international, our European hub. For whatever reason, the UK is never even though English is the main language for international business, the UK was never is usually not the headquarters. It's usually someplace in Europe on the mainland of Europe. And, we would have our clients from IBM or from Unilever come from Portugal and from the Netherlands and from Spain and from Greece, and they would sit in the same room, and I would have to get up and talk much slower than I'm talking right now in English to all of them to have them all agree on one single ad campaign for IBM or for, a laundry detergent from Unilever, for example. And everybody was speaking English. Only I had it as my mother tongue. Everybody else, it was their second or third language. And so it was really hard to have everybody understand the same thing from the like second or third removed language in their own mind. So when I would listen to all of them, and if I would draw what they said, well, I said, what I hear you all saying is this. And they would all look at the picture and they would go, "Yes, but I know I didn't mean that. I actually meant, a little different, a little more nuanced." And it was just easier to have a common consensus among all of these different cultures and languages when we started to use some pictures than trying to force everybody to create English words that meant the exact same thing to everyone. But what I wanna say is this is true even if you have everybody speaking English or everybody speaking French. Everyone thinks they understand the same thing, but they really don't. They really don't. They walk out of the meeting thinking that they all agree, and then they come back to the next meeting where everyone says, "But I thought we meant this. No, I thought you meant that. No, that's not what we agreed." It's all because they all have a different picture in their mind. If you can create a picture right there in the room in front of them, then, we can diagnose if there is a misunderstanding or disagreement right away, now, not next meeting, right? And that's why I love doing this and not being afraid to pick up the marker and do this.
Quite interesting. And let's assume if a leader must pick one meeting this quarter to run without slides and only a whiteboard. So, what is a minimal sketch toolkit and an agenda you would prescribe to them?
Oh, well, a toolkit, really, you really only need a marker and a whiteboard, or if you're doing a virtual meeting, I like to use an iPad with a stylus, and sometimes it's a little bit, challenging depending on what platform you're using, whether it's Zoom or something like that, to be able to share the iPad into the meeting. There's software that helps with this. Um, but at the very minimum, if you only just have a whiteboard or even a pad like what I'm using right now and a piece of paper, you can do this. And as far as an agenda is concerned, it actually helps. I love to draw out the agenda to make like a little chart, like a hand drawn chart of the agenda with maybe little icons. First we're going to discuss, our communication plan, and then we're going to discuss, our sales plan. And so you can have little icons like, for communication, maybe maybe you have it's email, and for sales, maybe it's this bag of money. Of course, it matters. I put dollar signs because I'm an American. If you're doing this in Europe, you might put a euro or one or something like that, and then here might be see, these are very simple little icons, but you can say, "Oh, we're gonna discuss sales, we're gonna discuss communication," and it just helps to focus the conversation, you know? Uh, but one thing I do want to say is that, and I've been touching on it a little bit since we started talking, one way to keep attention in a meeting is to just add some of this into the meeting. A friend of mine likes to call it smile, slide, sketch. So smile is your face is on camera. That's you talking, blah, blah, talking head. Slide is your PowerPoint. And then sketch, go to your iPad or to your paper and say, okay, now I've shown you the concept. Let me show you what it looks like in real life, or let me show you what I mean. And then you go and you draw a diagram or a picture of the story of what this means. Those three things You have the eye contact from the smile, you have the information, the main information from the slide, but then you have the practical application from the sketch. And when you put all those things together, you have greater understanding, but you also have more engagement because people aren't just sitting and staring at you talking for an hour. They aren't sitting and staring at the slides for an hour. You keep rotating between those three things, and you have, people don't look away. They don't get distracted, or they don't get bored. So it's really helpful for meeting engagement to add that in.
Yeah. I think it promotes interaction, and at the same time, it retains attention, right?
Right. Exactly.
Wonderful. So, also share us what are the top 3 drawings non-artists should learn, be it characters, concepts, or context to sell ideas, drive buy-in,
Right.
and lead change, especially when they are under pressure.
Right. Well, this is one of the things that I discuss in the book. It's my main framework. It I wh- I put drawings that you might need to know. You might have a little library that you go to all the time. You don't need to draw everything. Just like you don't need to understand, you don't need to read Balzac to go into a French restaurant in Paris and order lunch. You only need to know certain things. So there's a bare minimum. There's a small minimum of things that I think could make you anybody into somebody who is a great at this. I talk about character. That means people. So what I like to do is show like, no, here's a few little faces, and I can put, I'll put eyeballs and dots on each of these faces, and here's a little nose. And so here are all these people who are smiling, right? So you've got they all look the same, but if I just put 2 different marks on them, this one is this one is kind of emotional and sad. I put 2 different marks on this one. This one is kind of sneaky and evil and angry. This one, I'll do another one. This one, if I do like 2 big circles around this one, maybe put an exclamation mark. This person is like excited or surprised. Um, this conveys emotion. This is why people love emoji so much. And so if you can learn to draw the emotions on faces, and they're really, anger, fear, happy, unhappy, that can be your customer. That can be that's like what you're doing, a customer journey. You want somebody to go from or to, and so you draw the line in between those 2 states, and now you have a customer journey. When I talk about concepts, that's usually where most people start. Concepts are things like icons and symbols, and so, an icon, here's another thing you can make with a circle, might look something like this. Now, it's a little bit lopsided, but, you can tell it's an earth, but depending on what words you put with it, it could mean lots of different things. I could put a word like, logistics here, or I could put a word like travel, and we would have a whole different conversation, or I could put a word like peace, or I could put a word like climate, and it's the same picture. And so we have a completely different conversation, and there's all kinds of things that, out of a rectangle you could make like a little building, or the same rectangle you can make something that means email or messages. These are very simple little things. You do not have to be a professional cartoonist to do this, right? And it carries so much meaning, and universal. Most of it is universal. There's some cultural things like the dollar sign and things like that that don't mean the same thing in many different places, but many of these symbols mean similar things across cultures. So it really helps with that. And then context is where it all lives. Like, that might be a diagram or some kind of a metaphor, like a road or a bridge. I like to use an iceberg. Like, if you do an iceberg, I'll go, like, if anybody can do an iceberg, it's basically a blob. It's just this blob, but you've got like water on top, because everybody knows that the top of the iceberg sticks out over the water, and then the bottom is down here. But this is useful. This is useful because you can talk about the problem you're having on top of the iceberg. This is the problem that you can see. These 2 people aren't getting along. This is bad customer service or something like this. So You've got conflict up here. But what are all the reasons why that conflict is happening? What's contributing under the water that people do not see? People don't have enough autonomy to make to do the customer service. There's too much stress at the office. People aren't being given enough time to do their job correctly, or stuff like that. And you can all discuss like what's happening that people do not see that's making this bad thing happen. And then you can have a conversation about, okay, what one thing, if we fixed it under here, would have the biggest impact on fixing this problem. Now you can start to brainstorm about how might you fix those kinds of things. So it's very helpful in sort of design thinking, sort of problem solving, and things like that. Now, could you have the conversation without the picture? Absolutely, but it would not be as interactive, and it would not be as memorable, and it would not be as creative. So I feel like the pictures really help. So character, concepts, and context. We talk about a lot of that in the book and in workshops that I do.
That's amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed your narration, and it is simply grabbing my attention and at the same time promoting the interaction as well. And okay, we touched upon artificial intelligence a little bit. Let us double click on that. Like, where do you draw the line between AI perfect visuals and human marks in leadership communication? And when does AI help and when does it erode trust?
Yes, yes, AI, look, it works in copy also. You can tell, I can tell still, when something has been written by AI, when you look at LinkedIn or something like that and you see a post that's a long post, they look the same, they sound the same, it has a very some of them are better than others, but you could when you can tell that a machine has done something, you wonder, is this real? Did anybody actually think about this? Or did they just press a button and spit it out? What am I seeing here? Why should I trust it? When you have somebody doing, when I say imperfect, it's all the imperfection is the proof that a human was involved. And so at least you know that there was a person involved in this piece of communication. So AI helps, again, like I said before, to take something that's already been thought through and discussed, make it more presentable, to make it look a certain way. But the idea itself needs to be, I mean, AI can generate ideas, can help you brainstorm and things, but I still think if you don't get people involved at some point early in the process, then you end up with a perfect looking thing that doesn't make any sense. And we've all had that. We've all had that experience. Something from Midjourney that comes out, it looks perfect, but somehow I don't understand what I'm seeing here. And then when you don't get it, you begin to lose trust in both the image itself and in the person who showed it to you. So, the earlier in the process that you can continue to involve human beings, the better the AI will be able to do in the end, and the better the humans will be able to defend it when someone's asking questions about it also.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And let's assume if an executive says we are not artists and this will look childish. So, what's your go-to reframe that turns skepticism into participation in as less as 60 seconds?
Yeah, what I often do, and that's when this comes up, and it comes up less often than you might think. People are worried. Everyone is worried their boss will think that, but no one ever says it. No one actually ever says, "Oh, we think this actually looks childish. We don't want it." They worry other people will think that. But when it does come up, or to preempt it from coming up, what I do is I show sketches by Leonardo da Vinci, Marie Curie, Thomas Edison, before they made the light bulb, before they made the flying machine and stuff like that. They drew pictures of it. Now, Da Vinci, even his worst rough sketch is a beautiful thing. So it may not be the best example, but Thomas Edison's early drawings for light bulbs and things look like a 5-year-old did it. And you say, now, was this childish? This was the first rough draft of what a light bulb is. This is this is this is a picture of somebody thinking. This is not a child's drawing, although it could be. Children draw what they think, and that's why they're so fresh and immediate. And that's what we want. If people don't understand that, I'll say, well, I guess you don't really respect inventors like Marie Curie and Thomas Edison then, because they drew pictures like this. So to me, that's a reframe that often works. You know.
Amazing. I loved all the examples. And my next one is like, without breaching confidentiality, like what patterns have you seen across large enterprises like Bayer, Merck, IBM, Logitech, when sketching replaces slides? What breaks, what bonds, and what finally moves?
Yeah. What the when I worked with Merck, I will say, when I first came in to teach people, because what I often do is I will come into a company and train people on how to do this kind of work. And when I first came in, and I was presenting to a bunch of like product managers or something, many of them engineers, and they're sitting there like this, like they don't want. They're like, this is bullshit. We don't want this. We don't, or this is like you say, childish, silly. I don't want to look silly. But once they got going, they got very excited. They began to talk to each other. They began to show each other their pictures and explain what they were doing. It opens up so many conversations, and what it really does for me that I find so rewarding is, everyone talks about diversity, that they want all kinds of diverse people in their company, and that's great. But a lot of the time that is very superficial. They have one person from this culture and one person from that background and whatever, and they checked off all the boxes, but they don't really explain how to understand each other, how to respect each other's point of view. You want to, but you don't really know how. When you show somebody a picture, you're thinking, now I'm having a conversation about that idea, and I'm like, "Oh, isn't that interesting? We looked at the same thing, but I saw it this different way." I love it when a group of people all tell a story about the same thing, and when they show each other their picture, everybody's fascinated, like, "Wow, we are thinking about the same problem, but you saw it this way, and I saw it this way, and I don't necessarily agree with your point of view, but I understand it now, and I respect it." And you can see that all points of view are equally valid to that person, and it's a great exercise. You think it's about drawing, but it's really about seeing the other person's thinking and respecting the other person's point of view. So there's a lot of bonding that happens. Also, people feel embarrassed about their drawing skills, so there's a little bit of vulnerability and democratization that happens, but they're also very, gratified when somebody can look at their really childish, bad drawing and say, "Oh, I see what's happening here. You're saying that this goes to this, and then that happens." It's, "Yes, yes, you get it." Everyone's so excited, "Oh my god, I can't believe somebody understood what I just drew." And so there's that gratification there. Um, and everybody tends to remember much better what happened in the room than if they just sat there and looked at the slides. They don't if you ask somebody what did slide number 12 say about this topic? I would it would be very hard unless it was very meaningful personally to them for them to remember, be able to tell you. But if somebody said, "Well, what did the person next to you show you about their, what story did they tell about what they were doing in their work?" They would say, "Oh, well, he showed me this picture and it talked about this." They would remember every detail of that because it's a human interaction and human picture, and not some pre-made, thing that everybody's sitting there like drones watching this, So, the engineers, the product managers at Merck were really, they really went from stone cold to very, interactive, and I have had the same experience at lots of different companies. People really enjoy it once they've given permission to do it.
Mhm. Excellent. Can you guide our audience through a 90-second audio exercise to draw a simple customer change story right now without any visuals?
Yes, I mean, at the end, maybe I could tell you I could probably give you something that you can download where you could see a picture of this, but what I like to do is, um, I will make a picture of I would imagine somebody, standing on a mountain or a cliff on the left side, and it's just a person, and there's another cliff on the right side, that has everything that they want. It's their goals, it's money, it's victory, it's love, it's something they want or a whole bunch of things that they want, but in the middle, there is a big gap, and maybe on the bottom of that gap is water full of sharks and alligators if they fall in, right? So now what we want to do is figure out how are we going to get from the left part to the right part, and we build kind of a bridge and the bridge has steps or bricks or sections. And so those sections are step 1, step 2, step 3. First we'll do this, then we'll do this, then we'll do this. And it has and because you build this bridge, the person is able to cross over that gap from the left to the right. So if it's a customer story, we want the person on the left to be able to buy the product on the right. Well, first they have to find out about it, and then they have to go on their computer and look it up, and then they have to open the sales page, and then they have to place an order, and then they have to wait for delivery. And each of those steps it will get them from not knowing anything about the product to owning the product. So now we can look at those steps and say, how can we improve each one of these? How can we improve them finding out about it? How can we improve them the experience of actually buying it so that they don't abandon their cart in the sales process? How can we improve in the time that they're waiting to receive it to prepare them to enjoy it so that they give a testimonial or they post it on social media or something like that? And so it opens up a lot of ideation to not only get the person from point A to point B, but also iterate all the steps along the way.
Perfect. Perfect. Great example. And Lisa, you studied semiotics. So, what are the simplest symbols leaders should standardize across teams so ideas snap into place faster?
Well, I mean, semiotics is the study of the theory of signs and symbols. So as you mentioned, and I didn't realize how useful this would come in later in life, but you know, every business is different, but they're all the same. So there are going to be things that are where you're going to be talking about people and culture. So being able to visualize people, not just the faces, but just like the teams, and things like that, or customers, things like that are important. Every business needs to make money, needs to make sales. So being able to, what is your symbol for money? What is your symbol for receiving money? Every business is usually going to have some kind of dealing with time. How are you going to visualize time, either for deadlines or for how much time is this going to take, or is it a calendar? Is it a clock? Things like that are symbols that are really going to be useful for any business. If your business involves logistics, how are you going to visualize, the trucks that move it from place to place, or the packages that have to go from place to place? But for most companies, you've got people, you've got product, you've got processes with arrows and things. You've got sales, profit. So you've got so people, process, profit, and product, and those kinds of things. If you can visualize those, then you already have a lot of the vocabulary that you need. And I work with companies to make it more specific to them, and come up with their own visual vocabulary. But on the surface, those are the things that you would need to do.
Okay, tell us about a time sketching didn't unlock clarity and what went wrong, if at all, and how did you recover?
Well, I'm trying to remember exactly what this was, but there was one time when I drew something and somebody said, well, in our culture, that means something completely different. I don't remember what it was. I don't remember the actual story. And I had to apologize. And I had to ask myself, every time now when I go into a meeting where there is where there's where it's not all one homogeneous culture, is there anything here that might be misinterpreted, offensive, things like that? A stop sign looks different in some countries than it does in ours, for example. The other time that was actually harder to recover from was when somebody asked me, well, what do you do in meetings where people are sight impaired, or blind? And I'm like, uh, I'm not sure what I would do there except to describe like you just had me do with imagine a person on a cliff, imagine this, and have them make the picture in their head. But we're still talking about a picture. Even if they were blind from birth, they would understand, or in some way, I don't know how a blind person makes pictures, but they would understand the story because a picture really is just a story. And people are always talking about storytelling. But when you tell a story, what is happening is you are creating a picture in somebody's mind. You are prompting them to create their own picture in their mind. So what I do with pictures is I just go straight to the picture instead of using only the words. But yeah, I really didn't have an answer at the time for how to deal with sight impaired people in a meeting. There were none in that meeting, but somebody said, "Well, if somebody was blind, what would you do?" It's like, I don't know. I would just talk about the what was in the picture, and that was a little bit challenging. So it doesn't always work perfectly for everyone, but uh, in general, it's very helpful.
Fair enough. Thank you for sharing that candidly. And we have had an amazing and incredible conversation so far. And it's time for us to add some more spice and some more excitement to the episode, which means it brings us to the second rapid fire round. If you are ready, let's get the ball rolling.
Mm, yeah.
Okay. My first bullet is, if you could have one gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say?
I would say the worse it looks, the better it works. That's my favorite new slogan.
Okay. Can you describe yourself in just one word?
Enthusiastic.
Okay. And one icon you would ban from business forever.
I don't like the clipboard. People draw up clipboards. They have little clipboard icons everywhere, and I think those are like, does anybody use a clipboard anymore? It doesn't mean anything to me. So, you know.
And then first brand you would ever drew a logo by hand for, even if unofficial.
Okay, this is actually a great question. When I lived in Paris, I like to sing, and a bunch of us put together a choral group called the Paris Choral Society. And I made I don't have it with me, but I made a logo out of the PCS, and I made it into sort of a treble clef. So, I can actually do it. It looked like this. So it had the P and the C and the S, but it looked better than this. It came out looking treble clef. They still use it, and it's 30 years later, so I feel like that was my big and I did that with a pen and a piece of paper because this is before iPads and sort of the Stone Age. So, yeah, that was, that they still use it in their logo. Look for the Paris Choral Society, you'll see
I'll
my first hand-drawn.
I'll do that. If you were to draw logo for the guiding voice, what would it be?
That's a good question. I think, the guiding voice, you have so many different voices. I feel like you would have like a group of people, but sort of and with one big voice balloon coming out or something, like or many different voice balloons coming out, because you have such a diversity of topics. It's such an amazing show. I saw somebody talking about. Oh, I forget, but there was, afterlife things and then other stuff. It's really interesting how many different kinds of people you have. I would have a big world, maybe, the globe with a bunch of with, like, silhouettes of many different people and all these different voices coming. That's pretty cool. Um,
Wonderful. Okay. My next one is like favorite New Yorker cartoonist influence in just one word.
One word. It would be someone's name that you probably don't know, Lorenz. He was Lee Lorenz was the cartoon editor of the New Yorker, in the '80s, I would say, and he's also a wonderful cartoonist, and I love him, and I emulate his style.
Okay, got it. Here comes the last one for the second rapid fire. If at all you have an opportunity to invent an electronic gadget, or if you would like to see an electronic gadget, what would it be?
All right, this is not a gadget, but I have a program called Procreate that I use on my iPad to draw things, and I don't understand why, but they just don't have a way. They give you all of this stuff, and they have wonderful ways of you can stack up all your drawings in these little stacks, but they don't have folders. So if when I wanna look for my stuff, I have to go through all of this, and I have millions of things on here now, and I'm always looking for my things, and it's like, why don't they have searchable folders in Procreate? So that I please, if you anybody who's watching this, if you work for Procreate, please give us folders. Please give us searchable, things in this app. It's a wonderful app. If you want to draw on your iPad and you have an iPad Pro, Procreate is the most wonderful app, but it does not organize your files very well. So that's That's what I know it's not very exciting, but that's what I would invent because I need it right now, tomorrow.
Superb. As long as it is solving a problem, I think that is worth exploring. So wonderful. All right. I loved all your responses to the second rapid fire. Let's flip back to the mainstream and from drawing out your genius from your book. What is one behavior change that gives leaders the biggest return on investment in the next meeting?
Well, if you draw things in the meeting, make sure that you take the opportunity to get everybody's opinion, to get everybody speaking, even the introverted people, even if they don't say very much. Make sure that something that they said ends up on the picture, either as a word. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to draw it. You could write it because everybody feels acknowledged. Everybody feels like I count. I was here. It was worth coming, and that kind of acknowledgement. I'm not saying to patronize anybody, but to make sure that everybody sees their ideas reflected, and they understand this is a collective. This is the reason for a meeting. Why are we all in the same room if we're not going to collectively do something? I think that gives an ROI of making everyone feel validated, appreciated, heard, and it also prevents the person who keeps repeating themselves over and over from doing that because they see it looks okay, Bob, we have your idea. It's been recorded. You can see it right here. You can stop talking about that. Let's move on, right? So that gives you an ROI on your time. You don't have to continue repeating the same thing. That would be what I would say, would be to make sure that you capture something from everyone, prompt everyone to speak and to contribute, and make sure that that shows up on the picture.
Amazing. All right. So I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. And in fact, it is one of the best conversations, and especially all the visuals that you have drawn are amazing. And I learned a lot of new things today. And how is your experience being hosted on the Guiding Voice?
Well, you ask the greatest questions, Naveen. Most people, I've never answered some of these before, and it's really helpful for me to hear myself say, "Oh, what is that? I don't know. I've never asked. I've never thought about that." So it's really very thoughtful questions, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and looking forward to hosting you again in future. And I wish you all the best, and I wish a massive success to your book.
Thank you so much.
All right, so friends, that was our episode with Lisa Rothstein. Before we jump into the fun trivia section, here's a quick request. If you are listening to this episode on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, request you to hit the follow button and leave a rating or review so that it amplifies our reach. At the same time, if you're watching it on YouTube, you can subscribe to our channel, as it is going to help us immensely. And also, if you have enjoyed the conversation, I request you to share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who would also like TGV. So help others grow just like you have been growing. And now it's time for us to cruise into the trivia segment. Having had amazing conversation with Lisa on the power of visuals, especially the rough sketches and the cartoons and concepts, everything, I thought of bringing you few interesting facts which are less known about cartoons. The first fact is that cartoon originally meant a big sheet of paper. The word cartoon comes from the Italian cartone, meaning big, strong paper. The heavy sheets artists used to create full size preparatory sketches for frescoes, tapestries, and painting. Second fact is that the first cartoons were not funny at all. Before cartoons ever made people laugh, they were highly detailed planning drawings used by master artists like Raphael, Leonardo da Vinci, and Goya to map out their masterpieces. These early cartoons were prized artworks themselves. And third fact is that animated cartoons came much later, like early 1900s. The word expanded again when early animators created moving illustrations. And by 1911, it was used to describe animated films, beginning with pioneers like Winsor McCay. And the last fact is that one word which has three distinct eras of meaning. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, cartoon has evolved over a period of time. In 1600s, it was meant fine art drawings. In 1840s, it meant journalistic satire, whereas in 1910s, it was meant animated films. So each of them added a new layer without replacing the previous one. So this is all I wanted to share from preview perspective. So before you leave, before you move away, tell me about the favorite cartoon that you have come across. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, you can comment there. Or if you found it on Spotify, you can comment there as well, or any other social media platform. So folks, that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and also for being part of our awesome TGV family. So until next time, take care, stay inspired, and remember, the best is yet to come. Goodbye for now. See you in the next episode with another amazing guest. Take care. Love you all. Bye bye.